Okay, so this is actually very interesting. Right now, we are starting to see the makings of this new Social Security reform. What we are going to see, we're going to see the Republican side, the Democrat side, then eventually, hopefully, well, we all pray that they put the two together, they figure out a way to negotiate a deal and get something done for us, the American people. Or at least that's the hope and plan. Well, here's what I can tell you today. There is some news coming out regarding Social Security. But on the heels of that news, we're getting additional news from Republicans that Republicans are working on a new bill to actually have tax cuts. Yeah, that's what we're seeing. Now, let's look into some of these. So here's what I'm talking about. It's the Social Security 2100 Act. It's called a Sacred Trust. This was actually proposed years ago, and it's been reintroduced. Here's just some of the things that are in it. We are going to discuss this in just a second. But here's the next thing. Republicans are preparing major tax cut bill for after the debt ceiling crisis. This is crazy. Okay, but we knew it was coming. We knew that once the debt ceiling crisis was averted, then lawmakers would go step into the ring and they'd fight it out over Social Security. This creates a problem. The reason why this creates a problem is simple. Simply because right now, if lawmakers are fighting over Social Security and then they're also trying to address the tax cut situation because of our economy, that creates a major problem, and it puts us in another potential disaster situation. Why? Because how do we increase benefits to Social Security recipients? How do we ensure that Social Security doesn't become insolvent? How do we provide more relief or more funding to the Social Security Administration so that new beneficiaries don't have to wait an additional 2 or 3 months to collect their benefits? Well, how do we do all that? Again, that's a lot. How do we do that without raising taxes? That is what is very difficult to really understand, because if we can't raise taxes, that means we have to decrease spending. Okay? Hopefully I didn't lose you, because this whole thing has so many people completely baffled as to how are we going to accomplish these two things: reduce spending, okay, or increase taxes. One of those things has to happen. But Republicans just said today, and again, I talked about this in the video that I did earlier, where yes, lawmakers and the two negotiating parties, or specifically Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden, they agreed that yes, they are getting closer to a deal. They agreed on certain provisions, and they agreed we cannot see cuts. We can't see cuts to veteran benefits, or we can't see cuts to the military spending. It puts us in a very curious situation right now. But let's look into these articles. Let's read these articles, or this one article, but let's look at the Social Security 2100 Act, a Sacred Trust. This is what's in it, okay? I'm just going to read this. This right here, this is their quick fact sheet. You can actually see this. If you go over to, and you kind of see it here, right here, this is actually from John B. Larson. This is actually his government website, so you can go and check it out if you wanted to. But anyway, we're going to read the fact sheet. So it says, it will increase Social Security benefits for seniors who need it now, protects benefits preventing a 20% cut in 2034. What they're simply talking about here is it would prevent insolvency. And so by doing so, what that means is you get 100% of your benefits, not only 77 to 78%. So again, big win right there. Benefits have not been improved in more than 50 years. Americans have not recovered from the Great Recession. A lot of people haven't. And the pandemic. A lot of people have not recovered from this one right here. I was just talking to somebody the other day where their portfolio was down lower today than it was back when the Great Recession hit. Yeah. Again, think about that. It says the bill is fully paid for by making millionaires and billionaires pay their fair share. This is the big one. It is going to increase tax revenue. But again, this is going to increase tax revenue. This one is going to decrease tax revenue. And we will get to this one in just a second. But let's get right back to it. So it says provide small business owners and their employees increased retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. And it preserves the #1 anti-poverty program for seniors and children. That's the key, for seniors and children. Again, keep this in mind. Both parties, there's bipartisan support for the child tax credit payments being reintroduced. That is that $300 per month or $250 if your child is between the ages of 6 and 17. So again, a lot of stuff there. But we can go into this, okay? And you can read a little bit of this, but it says provide bump for current and new beneficiaries, right? Equivalent to about 2% of the average benefit. Protection against inflation because of the cost of living adjustment. It actually would switch it by adopting the CPI-E formula, okay? It's different. I've talked about that as well. Get away from the CPI-U or W. Protects low-income workers. Again, this is for lower-income households, middle-income households, not the wealthy. Again, keep in mind what they're trying to do is get the wealthy, the millionaires and billionaires, to pay for it. All right? But we're going to talk about this one. The reason why I want to talk about what Republicans are trying to do is because of something that's very simple that's going on right now. And that is that our U.S. economy is struggling. We keep on hearing that. We're not spending money. People are losing their jobs. We're seeing layoffs. People aren't making as much money as they were in years past. Here's the truth. People are actually making more money than they were 2 years ago. You know the problem? Inflation. Inflation is the problem. That's the key. We got to get inflation down. But this is where I try to tie this whole thing together. So we have the debt ceiling crisis, which lawmakers are currently working on or negotiators are discussing. The expectation is we are going to see this, the debt ceiling crisis. This will be resolved towards the beginning of June. Just today, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen came out and said that the official X date is closer to did I say January? I didn't mean January. I mean June. But it's closer to June 5th than June 1st. So the X date is actually June 5th, which means it gives us an additional 4 more days to try to reach an agreement. That should make things much easier. Okay? So that's that. Now, once that is resolved, then lawmakers will start working on Social Security. But they want to try to increase revenue to provide that to Social Security beneficiaries or to the Social Security Trust. The problem there is if Republicans are trying to increase the tax cuts, well, that creates issues because that is how Democrats are looking at getting some of this money to go into the Social Security Trust Fund. Now, this is, again, we have to deal with inflation. One of the big things that's coming up in the beginning of June is the CPI report. Are we going to see inflation go up? Is it going to come down substantially? Again, we're at 4.9%. Not a huge difference in last month where we're at 5%. So what experts are telling us is if we see inflation come down substantially, and again, we're waiting on shelter. Shelter is the big one. If we see home prices start to plummet, this is going to drop the inflation number. And so we're not going to be sitting at 4%. Chances are we'll be in the high 3s. Well, when this does happen, it's going to make it much easier. Okay, again, because a lot of it has to do with inflation. It's going to be a lot easier to try to get other things done for Social Security, for as far as tax cuts and increases there. Because one of the hard parts is how do we fight inflation, try to improve the economy. Okay, we can easily improve the economy by just lowering our interest rate number, the federal funds rate. If we lower that number, then the Federal Reserve is the only one that's going to do it. If they can lower that number, bring it down under 5, guess what? It means more people are probably going to go out there and spend. Businesses are going to spend. That's good. That means we do not have to provide as many tax cuts. But until that happens, lawmakers, or especially Republicans, are looking at additional tax cuts to try to give another boost to our economy. So, all this stuff is just a big old intertwined web. And how we get through this, honestly, I don't know. We first have to address the debt ceiling, and then what comes next was supposed to be Social Security. But at this time, I don't know if that's what lawmakers are looking at. So I promise I will do one thing for you. I will keep you up to date on everything that's going on. All you gotta do is two things. First off, hit that like button on this video and also click that subscribe button so you never miss an update. That's what I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching and consider subscribing. I will see you guys on the next one.